It was a rainy afternoon in Lahore. The streets shimmered under the silver drizzle, and the scent of wet earth filled the air. Ayan, a young architect, stood under a cafe's awning, trying to shield his notebook from the rain. Inside the cafe, Hira was sketching designs on tissue paper, her eyes lost in thought. She noticed the young man outside, drenched yet smiling at the sky, as if rain was his oldest friend. When Ayan finally stepped inside, dripping with raindrops, their eyes met. He gave a half smile, and she looked away, hiding her blush. Over the next few weeks, they kept meeting in that same cafe, always on rainy days. It was as if the clouds conspired to bring them together. Hira learned that Ayan loved designing homes, but secretly dreamed of building a library for children. Ayan discovered that Hira painted sunsets, but feared no one would ever take her art seriously. One evening, as rain tapped against the windows, Ayan whispered, "Do you believe rain remembers the people it brings together?" Hira smiled. "If it does, then we're already written in its." But life wasn't gentle. Hira received an art scholarship abroad. It was a dream she had worked for all her life, yet it meant leaving behind the one person who had become her world. On her last night in Lahore, the rain fell harder than ever. They met in the cafe one final time. Ayan held her hands, trembling. "Promise me," he said, his voice breaking, "that when the rain falls, you'll think of me." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'll do more than think. I'll paint you in every drop." And then she left. Years rolled by. Hira's paintings, filled with stormy skies and silver rain, gained fame. Yet every brushstroke carried Ayan's face, hidden in shadows. Ayan, meanwhile, built his dream a children's library in Lahore. But whenever the rain poured, he would sit by the window, eye-searching for the one he once held. Both lived their dreams, yet both carried an emptiness only the rain could speak of. Chapter 5. The Reunion. 5 years later, Hira returned to Lahore for an exhibition. The city welcomed her with what else? Rain. She walked to the cafe, trembling, unsure if he would be there. And he was, sitting at the same corner table, notebook open, just as before. Their eyes met again. After years, the world blurred, and only the sound of rain filled the silence. "You came back," Ayan whispered. "I followed the rain," Hira replied, tears spilling down her cheeks. He stood, walked to her, and embraced her as the cafe filled with the scent of coffee and rain. Epilogue. The Rain's Whisper. From that day forward, every rainfall in Lahore carried their laughter, their whispers, their promise. For Ayan and Hira, the rain had always been more than weather. It was destiny's way of reminding them that true love always finds its way home. Moral of the story: love tied by destiny may drift with distance, but it always returns like the rain, faithful and. Story. Echoes of a Promise. The city of Verona had always carried whispers of love within its stone walls. Tourists came from across the world to stand beneath Juliet's balcony, hoping some fragment of the ancient romance would bless their own hearts. But for Isabella, love was not a fantasy, it was a scar. She worked in a quaint bookstore on Verona, stacking dusty novels while hiding her own unfinished story. Years ago, she had fallen in love with a boy who had promised her the world. And years ago, that same boy had vanished without a word. On an autumn afternoon, while organizing new arrivals, Isabella heard the bell above the door ring. A man entered, tall with tired eyes, carrying a leather notebook under his arm. His presence drew the attention of the small crowd in the shop, but Isabella barely looked up until his voice cut through the air. "Do you have The Tempest by Shakespeare?" he asked. Her hands froze. She knew that voice. Slowly, she looked up. It was Lorenzo, the boy who had promised her forever. The boy who had left. Memories came crashing back. Summer nights by the Adige River, whispered confessions beneath the olive trees. The ring he had given her, a silver band that still rested, hidden in her drawer at home. And then the memory of that last morning. She had waited for him at the train station, suitcase in hand, ready to run away together. But he never came. Hours turned into days, and days into silence. Now, 10 years later, he was standing in front of her, as if time had been nothing more than a cruel trick. Isabella, he breathed, her name trembling on his lips. But Isabella forced a professional smile, masking the storm inside. The tempest is in all three. She walked away before he could speak again, but her hands were shaking. That night, Isabella sat at her desk, pulling out the silver ring and an old yellowed envelope from the drawer. Inside was a letter Lorenzo had written years ago but never sent. She had received it from his brother months after he disappeared. My dearest Isabella, if you're reading this, it means I failed you. I cannot explain everything now, but know this: I love you more than words can hold. Someday, if fate allows, I'll come back to you. Yours forever, Lorenzo. The words had once broken her, but now, seeing him again, they burned like fire. Why had he come back? The next day, she found him waiting outside the bookstore. Isabella, please just give me 5 minutes, he begged. Her heart wavered, but her voice was sharp. 5 minutes won't erase 10 years, Lorenzo. He swallowed hard. I didn't leave because I wanted to. My father's debts, they threatened to destroy our family. I had to leave Verona to work, to pay it back. I thought I'd come back for you sooner. But life, Isabella snapped. Or cowardice. He looked at her with eyes heavy with guilt. Both. The silence between them was thick, filled with inched tears and words unsaid. Finally, Isabella turned away. I had to leave Verona to work, to pay it back. I thought I'd come back for you sooner. But life, Isabella snapped. Or cowardice. He looked at her with eyes heavy with guilt. Both. The silence between them was thick, filled with inched tears and words unsaid. Finally, Isabella turned away. You shouldn't have come back. But as she walked, she felt her heart ache with every step. Days passed, but Lorenzo didn't give up. He would come to the bookstore, sometimes just to sit in the corner, scribbling in his notebook. One evening, Isabella discovered the truth. He had become a musician, his songs carrying fragments of their memories. At the Verona amphitheater, he performed a song called Echoes of a Promise. His voice filled the air, raw and trembling. I left with silence, but my heart stayed behind. A love unfinished, a vow undefined. Through years and shadows, through tears I roam. My heart still whispers Isabella, I'm home. The audience applauded, but Isabella sat frozen, tears streaming down her face. Every word was for her. Every note was their story. After the concert, he found her waiting in the courtyard. Her eyes red but burning with something he hadn't seen in years' hope. Why now, Lorenzo? She whispered. Because I couldn't stay away any longer, he said. Because no matter how far I went, every road led me back to you. She trembled, torn between anger and longing. Do you know how many nights I hated you? How many times I swore I'd never forgive you? Yes, he said softly, stepping closer. And I would bear it all, if it means I can have just one chance to love you again. Her tears fell freely. She wanted to push him away, but her heart betrayed her. And what if I give you that chance? What if you break me again? Lorenzo cupped her face, his voice breaking. Then I will spend every breath proving that I won't. For weeks, they tried again slowly, carefully. Walks by the river, shared coffees in the quiet bookstore, long talks beneath the stars where they once made promises. Isabella resisted at first, but love has a way of softening walls. She saw the man he had become, the lines of hardship on his face, the sincerity in his eyes, the unshakable devotion that time had not destroyed. One evening, as the bells of Verona rang, Lorenzo took out the silver ring he had once given her. I kept its twin, he said, showing her his hand. Because even in the darkest years, I believed we weren't over. With trembling fingers, Isabella slipped the ring onto her finger once more. Years later, tourists in Verona often spoke about a musician and a bookseller. They would see him playing his violin outside the bookstore, while she painted by the window. They spoke softly, laughed often. and every now and then looked at the stars as if remembering a promise only they understood. Because sometimes love doesn't die. It waits. It echoes through years, through silence, through absence, until two souls finally come home.